Hey everyone, it's Will, Gamer Dad, with another video for you. So in this video, of course, we're going to take on Hozuki's second and final manifest fight, being that I did defeat his Mina's fight. If you haven't caught that video and you need some help with it, go ahead and check that one out. Otherwise, this one will also show two different ways of tackling Hozuki. One will be without an AF, and the other one would be of a different team with a few different strategies as well. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me with this. So, being that Hozuki is a Fire Pierce unit, I highly recommend not using Fire Zone or Pierce Zone against it. Slash Zone obviously would be fine, as well as Water Zone, Magic Zone, these kind of things. And also keep in mind that you will need some physical debuffs, so either using a power debuff and or type shields against fire attacks will do very well to help you survive. So obviously we started off with Aiming Flood, Power Down, we do have Aurora Force, and we have Water Zone, plus don't forget the end of turn Elemental Shield depending on the number of water attacks done that turn from AS Annabelle, our Zone Setter. In this case, our main DPS is going to be AS Hismina with Trishula, and obviously the whole point is to get it to 5 stacks, after which we can do the other attack, which does tremendous amounts of damage, especially if you do have enhanced Grasta. Alright, so if you're wondering why we're using Meryl here on this team, as opposed to, for example, just a pure water type team, the reason is this. Unfortunately, Hozuki in its second manifest battle does have 2 HP stoppers, just like his Mina's, and at each HP stopper, it will clear all buffs and debuffs on herself. Not only that, it will also do a move for an AoE that can move, lock one or more of your team. And if that's the case, here we go. Right there. Time to turn up the heat. So you can see that chain surrounding one of our units, which is Ace Liquor, and if you don't cure it, it actually stays for the duration of the battle. It actually does not fade, unlike some other fights where the bind can fade. So in this case, you really do need a dedicated status remover to really survive, or you can just risk RNG and hope that your main moves aren't locked out. In this case, I highly don't recommend doing that, being that, as you cycle through her moves, you can see that she does have a single target as well as an AoE right after in the same move. She does have a dual debuff on your team as well, which she does by removing or reducing her own speed. And she does have a couple of single target attacks. Now, if you do have multiple shields and or zones active, the damage is going to be very minimal in comparison to some of the tougher manifest fights. So I wouldn't consider this one of the toughest ones. It's just more annoying, like I said, with the removing buffs and debuffs and the fact that she can move lock your team. So, for example, if you do a 1-turn AF, a lot of times, those debuffs will be removed off her. However, you still have your buffs, as you can see. So if your team is strong enough, obviously a 2-turn or 3-turn AF would be more than sufficient, obviously using the same strategies as we usually use. In this case, AS Hismina, once she has 5 stacks and we start using her secondary move, it's going to be more than enough, being that she does have all those boosts on herself. Now, in a later video, I will actually be comparing both AS Hismina to normal style Hismina and seeing how that damage compares now that she has a manifest. And likewise, I will be comparing normal style Hozuki to AS Hozuki as well to see if it's worthwhile to use one or both and see what different situations we are. So hopefully you can catch those videos over the next few days as well. Let me know in the comments below if you guys are finding these manifests harder or easier than previous ones. I would say of all the newest manifest fights, AS Iska is probably one of the more challenging ones. And of course, Hismina itself was fairly challenging, especially if you don't have a lot of Grasta in your team. I mean, I would say that Bullseye, or especially with the Underworld dungeon, is really the current meta we're looking for, being that outside AF you can increase your damage by 50%, and given enough stacks, debuffs, and so on and so forth, you can do enough to really push past a lot of HP stoppers. Like a lot of the older fights, like the twins and other things that have multiple HP stoppers, your single target could probably do more than enough damage to push it to the next step. Alright, so again, Foreign in this example is carrying Grasta for his minute AS. So, that was fairly straightforward. Water team against a fire unit. Now in this case, we're going to use a magic team against Hozuki's manifest. Now bear in mind that when you're fighting an elemental manifest, you can use the opposite element against it or the same element against it. It does resist the other two elements, in this case being that fire is going to resist earth and wind, I believe. And the other three elements, crystal, shade, and lightning, will be resisted as well. Although, obviously, if you do a ton of shade damage, it will push it through anyway. So, like, for example, Milsha's end of turn or Thililily's damage can really do a number on some of these fights. Now, that being said, we're going to do a quick 2-turn AF, set up our buffs and debuffs on our team. Bear in mind that the buffs and debuffs will be removed from her, however, I believe it stays on our team. Now, that being said, one of the best reasons to use a magic team is not only do you have Mario that can cure status, you also have an AS Rosetta that can cast Codex and give you a status shield for one time. So you don't have to fear any of those move locks, and if you do, really, you can use Mario to cure that, especially given the fact that in both examples, I use a bind resistance badge so that on Mario that she can always cure Leaf if need be. Other than that, it's all about using mana to really use Mistopheles to enhance our team by increasing int by 35% while reducing the power of everyone around us by 35% to keep the battle under control. Not only that, don't forget that AS Rosetta's Prayer of Judgment does have physical resistance. We do have Aurora Force in play, and really, if you really need some extra shielding, you can use Practical from mana as well. I do find, again, and I mentioned this in other videos, Magic Team is very versatile. You can substitute the units you want, and like I said, the mainstay of the unit is really just AS Rosetta or AS Chio coming up, and Mario really can do the trick. Even Gario, as a free unit, can do a tremendous amount of damage with Manifest, being that he boosts staff damage by 50%. Alright, so at this point, we've already brought it down past 1 HP stopper with the 2-turn AF, and it's all about getting past the second one and finally to the final stage. Now, bear in mind that the enemy can really, with those statuses, you can see that I wasn't able to cast Codex in time, and so I believe that a couple of our units do have some moves locked out, unfortunately. That being said, we are still in very good shape, not really at risk of taking any damage. Just when you're doing some of these tougher fights, make sure you keep some your eyes on your status bar and make sure that those buffs and shielding that you need on your team don't fade. You can always use the status bar, status button at the top left-hand corner if needed. Alright. And pretty much over here. Okay, just a little bit left. One shot should do the trick. So hopefully, again, this video does show you a couple of different ways to beat the Hozuki's Manifest fight. And I realize that at this point, most Manifest fights are actually very doable, given that with the Grasta we can carry, as well as even with free characters, you can probably use a completely free character team, such as a Slash team. And don't forget, although being a Fire Slash will still do enough damage against Hozuki, since Hozuki will not resist that damage. So, you could always use the Dragon to God Slash and then the X Slash to finish things off. As usual, this is the loadout at the end of the video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.